that. You are a supporter of the Israeli government, so I'm going to ask you about Israel.
And
you can do whataboutism all you want. Again, that's what MAGA people do here. When you ask them about MAGA, what do? They blame the Democrats. So let's not play that game. Let's ask you about Israel.
Mehdi, it's not the MAGA game. I'm going to say yes, Israel's made mistakes. I'm going to say yes.
War crimes.
Israel,
no, I'm asking war crimes.
Israel, call it what you want. Israel.
No, I'm asking you to call it.
And I'm going to tell you. I don't know. I'm going to tell you.
No, Joe.
No,
I'm not going to let you run away with it. You can shout all you want. 335 bullets fired into a car with children. Is that a war crime?
I don't. You know what? Could be. Investigate it. But God damn it,
it was investigated, Joe.
This is what Hamas does all the time.
Right. Joe,
hiding behind civilians is a war crime. You know what slays me about you?
By the way, you said I see you say this all the time.
What?
Hiding behind civilians. And yet, when Israelis actually use Palestinians as human shields, you don't say anything. Last week, it emerged. I checked your Twitter, Joe. You can correct me.
What?
Last week, it emerged that an 80-year-old man, Israeli press reported, was being used as a human shield. They were taking him into houses, putting him in front of them, an actual human shield. Right? They were using a Palestinian man.
But
they've done that many times. Do you know they've sent... Let me finish a sentence. They send Palestinians into tunnels in Gaza. Have you condemned that as... Have you condemned that as the use of human shields?
Was not aware of it. And if I was aware of it, I'd condemn it.
Why aren't you aware? It's all over the Israeli press.
Why are you not acknowledging that this is Hamas's policy? And this has been their policy from day one.
What I acknowledge about Hamas is irrelevant because I don't support Hamas.
Let me hear you say it.
I don't support Hamas. Do you support Hamas?
No.
Do you support Hamas?
No.
Do you support Hamas?
No.
I don't support Hamas. So that's done. Do I support Israel?
Stop for a minute.
Can
it's
I finish
not
a sentence?
Done. No.
Can I finish a sentence?
Not when you don't let me finish sentences.
Joe, let me finish mine.
Bullshit,
but I promise I'll let you give a long
answer.
answer. I'll give you a long answer if you let me finish this one sentence. I don't support Hamas. Do you support Hamas?
No.
I don't support Israel. Do you support Israel?
Yes.
So that's what we're going to talk about. Now, when
stop. No.
It's very simple. You're here to support Israel.
No, but stop. But Hamas...
Why am I talking about something we both disagree with?
Hamas has been the governing entity in Gaza for how many years? So, yes, you do need to talk about Hamas because Hamas did what they did on October 7th.
And we've condemned it. Do we both condemn that?
history. Do you condemn? Yes. Do you condemn?
But you're not condemning Israeli war crimes. That's what I don't understand. You're trying to dodge it with whataboutism about Hamas. It's a very simple question. I can keep going. Let's play a clip here. Let's play a clip for you to watch. We got a clip of a grandmother. Here's a grandmother. Maybe you're not aware of this one. This is a Palestinian grandmother in her 50s. She's holding a child, right, in her arm. He's got a white flag. She's shot in cold blood by an Israeli sniper who's...
Mehdi, I don't know what the hell that was. That's not... How do I know?
It's a sniper who shot at a Palestinian grandmother.
Mehdi, you invite me on, you show me a clip of that,
it's a famous clip,
and you tell me what it is. I'm sorry, okay, I'm not familiar with that. Okay? I'd like to know what that is. I'm not familiar with that.
You know I can go through multiple examples, right? You know that. I can start reading multiple examples. The Al-Dos family in Gaza, whose apartment building was bombed. We can go through each and every example.
But where you and I will disagree is this. And I'm telling you, this is ugly, and it's horrible, and it's unfortunate.
It's war crimes.
It's not Israel's policy to target civilians. Israel has gone out of their way not to. They are fighting an opposition, Mehdi, that has a history of doing the exact opposite.
You say they don't have a policy of doing that.
And see, you won't acknowledge that. You won't acknowledge. Can you say yes or no to that?
What, yes or no to?
Does Hamas have a history of doing the exact opposite?
Hamas has a history. Hold on.
Target Israeli civilians.
Hamas has, yes, it has in the past. For example, when I was a teenager, I was condemning bus bombings, if you remember, in the 90s, right? But hold on.
As a policy,
this is
though,
pure
Mehdi.
whataboutism, Joe.
No, it's not. It is. As a policy. That's the policy of Hamas. The governing entity of Gaza.
I'm the only one here who has condemned civilian killings on both sides. You've called it a mistake, which I find grotesque. Let me read to you about Israeli policy. This is from Haaretz last year, Israeli newspaper. You're saying you're not aware of this. Let me tell you this. An Israeli soldier relays that a senior commander asked him to shoot an unarmed man with a white flag. He said he's got a white flag. He says, I don't care. Shoot him. It's an order. Another Israeli soldier told Plus 972 there were no restrictions on ammunition. We could just shoot to relieve our boredom. We don't need to explain. You just shoot. When soldiers see someone approaching, it's permissible to shoot them. We can shoot a young girl, an old woman. This is testimony from Israeli soldiers, Joe, that it's a free fire zone. They can shoot and kill whoever they want. That is a policy. That is a war crime, and many would argue that's genocide. That is what you're defending today, which is kind of sad.
Do you believe... Answer this question.
No.
I'm saying I condemn that. And
finally, it's a war crime. It's easy to say I condemn it.
No, man.
Why won't you call it a war crime? I'll say what Hamas did on October 7th was a war crime. Will you say what I've described a war crime?
Everyone's
watching. I'm the only one condemning war crimes of all
time. Maybe a war crime. I don't trust some international group who
You don't trust Palestinians who talk about being raped and tortured in captivity.
I don't trust an international group with an inherent anti-Israel bias to tell me that's
Is
a
the
war
International
crime.
Criminal
Israel,
Court
by the way.
anti-Israel bias?
Oh God, yeah. Like the
What's
UN has.
evidence?
Like the UN
No, I'm
has
asking
an
you, you
interest.
just made a claim.
Oh.
This is very Trumpy right now, just throwing things around.
Call
What
me-
is the ICC's
No,
evidence
it's
of anti-Semitism?
Do me a favor, do me one favor. Don't call it Trumpian. Don't call it MAGA.
Because it's so fascinating to see that you are borrowing.
I
You don't
think the
even- you don't
United
even hear it.
Nations has an anti-Israel bias.
That's
Do
a
you
different.
at
I didn't
all?
ask that. I said, is
But-
the ICC?
No, hold
Where's
on.
the ICC's anti-Israel bias?
That's not Trumpian.
I don't want to debate that right now. I'm asking Israel because it's a long debate. This is a very simple one. Where's your evidence of ICC anti-Israel bias? Most of the people they've indicted are African leaders. They haven't indicted anyone from Israel ever.
Israel's
They
not,
also indicted Hamas commanders.
because I do not believe Israel's committing a genocide, and I think they were out of line saying that Israel's
ICC
committing a
never
genocide.
said they're committing a genocide.
What ICC said?
The International Criminal Court said he's guilty. They charged him
With war crimes.
with willful killing of civilians and starvation.
Charge two.
Right? And guess who backed them up?
Charge
Guess who was
two.
their advisor?
Charge
Theodore
two.
Myron.
Charge two.
Holocaust survivor.
Charge two.
Israeli
Netanyahu.
judge. Is he anti-Israel as well?
Charge two. Netanyahu.
They charged Netanyahu and Gallant.
You think Benjamin Netanyahu and Gallant have purposely tried to destroy, kill, and starve?
That is what the evidence
Palestinians?
that the ICC have amassed.
That's what the ICC has.
And your
amassed.
argument is, instead of engaging with the evidence, like the evidence
No,
I'm
you
giving
know
you,
what you've
is
done?
to say that, hold on, let me finish that, that's anti-Israel bias. That's just Trumpian.
Mehdi,
You're not engaging in the facts.
Because you know what you've done. You know what you've done again. You're not the ICC. I'm not. You know what you've done. This is what you do. I love you. You're great. But you will grab example after example, and you'll tell
Facts.
me that factual instances, and you'll tell me this is proof that this is Israel's policy. And I'm telling
literally
you,
just read out to you
I'm
what
telling
soldiers
you,
say is Israel's
policy is not to target and wipe out and destroy.
And the difference between
the
me and you is
Palestinian
you're just
people.
opining and I'm giving evidence. How do you know it?
You're giving
I've
me
given you an example. You've
You're
not given
giving me
examples.
examples.
So far, since this interview began, I've read out to you what the deputy speaker said, which you condemned.
You're
I've read
giving-
out to you about a kid being killed, which you
Mehdi-
apparently... Let me finish. You keep interrupting me and saying I'm interrupting
Oh,
you.
bullshit.
A kid
Mehdi,
being killed,
you are
you've
the king of
condemned it.
interruption.
I've shown you a video of a grandmother being killed. You said you don't know anything about it. I've read out quotes from Israeli soldiers, and I've quoted the International
when you're done.
Freaking
Tell
Criminal
me when
Court.
you're done.
And you said they're just anti-Israel.
Tell me
that
when
does
you're
sound
done.
Trumpy.
Well, they are anti-Israel.
Where's your evidence?
I've condemned
I'll
every.
stay here all
hold
day.
on.
Where's your evidence that
Hold
the
on.
ICC is
I'll
anti-Israel?
condemn every example you've given me.
Where is
but
the evidence ICC is
my
anti-Israel?
evidence that they're not is the way that Israel has conducted this war. Period. Trying to
making
move,
Gaza uninhabitable,
civilians
starving
out of the
people.
way. Leaflets to notify civilians to get out. We're going to
And
bomb
killing
here.
tens of
Going out of the
thousands
way.
of people.
Clearing hospitals.
They
Don't
destroyed
believe
most of the hospitals in Gaza. Joe, stop
Why?
this.
Why?
Stop this.
Why did
Stop
they
this.
destroy hospitals?
You haven't answered my question.
Have they not given warning?
It's very funny that you haven't answered my question, but I'm going to
What?
go back to it. You've known me for years. I'm going to go back to it. What's your evidence that the International Criminal Court has an anti-Israel bias?
I think they've exhibited anti-Israel bias because I do not believe the evidence they presented justified that willfully Netanyahu and Gallant committed war crimes.
You've read all the
I do
evidence.
not
The evidence
believe-
is there.
I got to go back, but yeah, I read a lot of it.
Their
I
legal
do not,
advisor,
I do not
the
believe,
guy who supported them,
Right, I
the
do
guy who
not
supported
believe it
them
was
is a man
willful.
named Judge Theodore Myron,
I
who's a
feel
Holocaust survivor and an Israeli judge. He said
I'd feel the
these,
same.
these charges. Is he anti-Israel as well?
I'd feel this.
No, but is he anti-Israel as well?
I
you don't say you disagree with the court. You go for this lazy, they're anti-Israel, they're
I do
anti-Semitic.
disagree with the court.
That's fine.
do
But what's the
disagree
evidence
with
that
the
they're
court.
anti-Israel?
I think they've
You have
always
done.
said.
It's just a conspiracy. It's just ad hominem. And that's why I say it sounds Trumpy. You just throw out anti-Israel. Based on what? You've got no evidence. I consider all day. What's your evidence for the ICC?
Because I think they had it in for Netanyahu.
Based on
they
what?
had it in Gallant.
Who cares what you think? What's your evidence?
I got to go back. When I look at what was put forward.
They've charged mostly African leaders, and in this case, they've charged Hamas and Israel. And your argument is, instead of engage with the copious evidence that the prosecutors brought, that the judges have
You
supported.
look at the way Israel.
The evidence
Mehdi,
is there.
look
You
at
don't want
the
to hear
way
starvation.
You look at the way
they're starving people in Gaza. Are they starving people in Gaza?
What would you answer me something?
No,
no,
answer your question, Joe.
No,
Are they
they're
starving
not
people in
starving
Gaza?
people
So Cindy
in Gaza.
McCain, is she anti-Israel as well? The head of the World Food Programme. Widow of the most pro-Israel senator in our lifetime. She has said that people are starving to death in Gaza. They're blocking our aid trucks.
Whose
is she
fault
lying?
is that?
Is she lying, Cindy McCain? She's blaming Israel. Is she lying?
People in Gaza may be starving.
Is she lying is what I
No,
asked.
no, let me Damn it, Mehdi, would
Answer
you
the
ask
question.
a fuck? Then don't ask it 4 times. Yes,
Answer
there's...
it the first time and I don't have to repeat it.
Do me a favor, stop, let me speak.
Please.
Yes, there's starvation in Gaza, but gosh darn it, Israel has gone out of their way to allow aid in. And who's stopped the aid? I mean, for 2-3 years, who's robbed the aid trucks and all the aid coming in? Hamas, terrorists.
According to the US
Israel
government, the
has
Biden administration you supported, they didn't present evidence of Hamas
Oh,
stealing
gosh,
aid.
yes, they
There were
did.
criminal gangs that Israel actually supports, according to the Israeli press. But let me ask you this, because you're very supportive of Israel. That's why I want to do this interview, and then you don't want to actually defend them. You want to make it about Hamas. Just before, I got to ask you this.
I do. No, stop. I defend the way Israel's fought this war.
Even though,
Period.
Even though every example I've given, you say you condemn it, but at the end you still
Even
support
though
them.
there are examples of outrageous and atrocious behavior.
I had Ehud
yes,
Olmert.
it's not the policy of the IDF
I've
to do
had
this.
Ehud Olmert. By the way, whether it's your policy or not, a war crime is a war crime, Joe, by the way, just to break that to you. It doesn't matter what your policy is. If you commit a war crime, that's a crime. That's just so you know international law. I've had Ehud Olmert on the show, former Prime Minister of Israel. I've had Ami Ayalon on the show, former head of Shin Bet, on that screen. And they've supported Israel, but they've also criticized Israel's, in many ways, in a way I don't hear someone like you criticizing Israel. You tweeted recently, I'll swim across the ocean to defend Israel. You're very gung-ho in your support for Israel in a way that Israelis are not. They're like, our country is messing up big time. And then there's you. I haven't heard you criticize so many things Israel are doing. You are today because I've asked you to. But I went through your Twitter thread. I went through your Twitter, Joe.
No,
Let me just ask you.
Mehdi,
I just want to ask, just want to check your views.
I don't.
So let's check, so viewers know your views. So
Generally, I don't.
You don't
Go
criticize
ahead.
Israel?
No, I will, but generally, I don't.
So, for example, 40,000 Palestinians in the West Bank have been driven from their homes. The Israelis said you can't come back. That's a war crime. Do you condemn that? Just in the last few weeks. Do you criticize that?
What do you mean they've been driven from their homes?
They've been pushed out by the Israeli military. 40,000 people, the size of a town in your old district in Illinois, just gone. And they've been told you cannot come back. Netanyahu's sitting in their house in a photo. You would go mad if Vladimir Putin was sitting in a Ukrainian home.
Mehdi, I don't understand what... Pull back for a minute. After October 7th, what would you have had Israel
The West
do?
Bank has nothing to do with October 7th. That's why I specifically asked about the West Bank, because I know you're obsessed with going back to October 7th, Hamas as if the world began.
I'm sorry.
The West Bank, Hamas does not run the West Bank.
I didn't know you were talking about the West Bank.
I'm talking about the West Bank. 40,000 people driven from their homes by violent settlers. You've been watching the violent settlers, crazy people. I assume you don't agree with them. They make Marjorie Taylor Greene and Trump look moderate, the far-right Israeli settlers.
They are as close as we've got to radical Islamist terrorists.
And they are driving people out of their homes, 40,000 people. Do you condemn that? I've not seen you say a word about that on your social media and your shows. That's happening right now. I don't hear you criticizing Israel for it.
I don't.
You don't criticize Israel for driving 40,000 people from their homes?
No, I don't. Look, Israel has to... They're not going to make the same mistake they made in Gaza.
They're doing exactly what they did in Gaza, actually. They're displacing people from their homes.
What do you mean they're doing what they did in Gaza?
Well, 1 million people have been driven from their homes in Gaza.
Because
and
of
now
why?
we have 50,000 people.
Why?
Because Israel is breaking international law.
Oh, not because the ruling governing entity of Gaza declared war on Israel on October 7th.
Even if that were true...
And that's not true?
No, there was a war before October 7th.
No.
I know Joe Walsh's world began on October 7th, but there's been
No,
occupation
I know
since
that.
1967. Hamas didn't even exist in 1967. So the war didn't begin on October the 7th. But my question is, you're saying now today...
Okay,
let me ask you this.
They initiated the latest stage of this war.
200 kids killed in the West Bank since October 7th. Are you okay with that?
No, I'm not okay.
Israel? Okay, do you condemn Israel for killing 200 children in the West Bank?
I'd have to know, Mehdi.
You'd have to know how the children were killed.
Yes, I'd have to know how the children was killed. Who's responsible for the children
killed? The Israelis are.
Just like
the
Israelis are.
Yeah,
just like I want to know
shots.
every Israeli,
These are kids killed with
every
snipers.
settler killed in the West Bank. Look, Mehdi, this is
200 kids killed, and you can't bring yourself to condemn that.
I do condemn it. I want to know.
You didn't just a moment ago. You literally did not.
I don't know who killed those 200
Israel
kids.
did, according to every international observer, human rights, the UN.
Show me.
Show me what?
Show
me. Children.
Show me every instant where the two, and I'll show you a terrorist attack where 6 Israelis.
That is not true. There are no. Many of these cases involve children.
No,
who
I'll show you a terrorist
video
attack
from Channel
where
4 News.
Israelis
You're just
were
making
killed.
stuff up now.
No, I'm not.
You are. I said to you, many kids are killed, and you just assume there's a terrorist attack. No.
Mehdi, you make this sound like a fucking one-sided affair forever. I know the war's been going on forever.
Maybe that's telling. Maybe that's telling.
But hold. What do you mean? Maybe that's telling?
It is one-sided.
Stop.
One side is the occupier. The other side is occupied. One side has nuclear weapons and is killing thousands of children. The other side does not kill thousands of children.
Let me ask you a question. Answer this. There's no peace in that region. Why? Is it completely
Because of
one-sided?
Benjamin Netanyahu.
That's why.
No, those are his words, not mine.
That's why.
Those are his words, not mine.
No, I'm asking.
It's funny because you said recently.
I'm not. No,
I'm glad you
not
brought this
asking.
up. You said there would be peace in the Middle East tomorrow if the Palestinians wanted peace and agreed Israel has a right to exist. That's all it would take. And that's all. It's on the Palestinians, you said. Israel has always wanted peace. Ehud Olmert came on my show. He doesn't agree with you. Ehud Barak doesn't agree. There are Israeli politicians who say, actually, no, Israeli governments have blocked peace.
Let me ask you something.
Netanyahu said recently, no, Joe, you don't get to ask me a question.
No,
You have to
let me
mine.
answer.
No, then I'm going to answer it 4 times.
Let me answer.
Answer my question.
I'm not going to accept
Benjamin
your answer.
Netanyahu says, I'm the guy who blocked peace, blocked a Palestinian state for decades. He's bragging about blocking peace. And you're pretending that Israel is the block.
Hold on. I'm asking you.
I can read you the quote.
I'm asking you. I want to make sure I heard you correct.
Go on.
There is not peace in that region. Are you telling me that's all on Israel?
It's not all on Israel, but it's mostly on Israel,
It's
of course.
mostly on Israel. Going back 70, 80 years.
Oh, of course. If you want to get into 1948, we could do that. There'll be another show. We don't have time for that today. But in terms of the last couple of decades of the quote-unquote peace process, Netanyahu said, his words, everyone knows that I am the one who for decades blocked the establishment of a Palestinian state. He's saying it out loud, and then you go on Twitter and say it's all the Palestinians' fault. That's absurd.
It is, because
the
Hamas, the PLO, majorities of the Palestinian people for years and decades do not believe Israel has a right to exist.
That's not
do you
true.
acknowledge that?
No,
that is true, Mehdi.
Arafat in 1993,
true.
the PLO recognizes the state of Israel's right to exist in peace and security. That was
part
1993.
It's part of Hamas.
And who ended that peace process? Netanyahu.
It's part of, who ended that peace process?
Rabin's widow blames Netanyahu. She says my husband's dead.
Rabin's widow does.
Yeah.
And Arafat walked away from it as well.
That you are more pro-Netanyahu than Rabin, Barak, Olmert? It's weird that Joe Walsh is more pro-Netanyahu than Israeli leaders who blame Netanyahu for this.
I'm pro-Israel.
No.
I'm pro-Israel.
Because the Israelis don't agree with you. Thousands of Israelis took
And I do not sit in front of you and say that this is all one-sided like you pretty much say.
Joe, you're lying.
Crap,
Okay, I'm going to read the quote to the viewers. It is on the Palestinians.
Yes.
That's what you just said.
I stand by that.
So you just lied.
No, hold on.
Joe,
I didn't
10 seconds ago
lie.
you said I didn't say I put it all on the Palestinians. I'm going to read the
don't.
quote again.
Mehdi, I don't put it all on the Palestinian
it is on the
people.
Palestinians. Israel has always wanted peace.
Yes.
That is putting it all on the Palestinians.
No, hold on. No, it's
I'll
not.
read it a third time.
That's
all it would
Mehdi,
take.
don't
You
read
can't
it a
pull
third
my
time.
questions out of my
Let
hand.
me answer the freaking question. Yes. The Palestinian people have to say that. And if they say that, Mehdi, then the Israeli people have to accept that.
They have said it multiple times.
Bull crap.
Well,
if the
you don't know what you're talking about.
No, you don't. If the Palestinian
No, I can give you evidence.
If
You've
the
not given any evidence
Palestinian
today.
people said tomorrow, if they all rose
They
up...
said it in 1993, 1988. The Arab Peace Initiative, 2002, 2007,
Bullshit.
2017.
It was part of the PLO chapter
It's been
as of
said
a few
multiple
years ago.
times.
It's still part of Hamas's chapter.
That's Hamas, not the PLO.